Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Holy Happy Hour. I am your host, Josh, and I'm super excited today. But first, I wanted to remind you guys to like and subscribe because you guys know this is the social media way of evangelizing, is what I call it. You like and subscribe, and it sends the channel out to other people that, hey, you might like this video too. And yeah, we can plant seeds that way. I'm super excited for today. You guys saw last week we had Curtis Martin, who is co-founder of Focus, and now we have the other half, the co-founder of Focus with Dr. Edward Stree. He's also an author and theologian. But Dr. Stree, how's it going?
Great to be with you.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm super excited you took the time to jump on with us. It's been fun. I had so much experience with Focus, which a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's awesome. Where did you go to school and everything?" But this has actually been within the last 5 years. I wasn't Catholic in college, so I never had experience with Focus, and this has all been literally within the last 5 years. It's been awesome. So I've been super blessed to be a part of the same kind of process, which has been awesome as you guys have moved into parishes. But it's been awesome. And I don't know if you wanted to maybe start and just share a little bit about your story of like kind of getting started with Focus and Curtis, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, well, it was a really fun story. So Curtis and I were good friends. He was at Franciscan University. That's where I was doing my master's program, and we had stayed in close touch together all those years. And I started teaching at a small school in Kansas that wasn't on the radar screen at all. Nobody heard of the school. It's famous now as one of the top Catholic colleges in the country. But in 1997, there was not much happening, I should say, spiritually at Benedictine College in Atchison, Kansas. And I was teaching there, and some students had seen Curtis on EWTN, had heard about Focus. I think they knew that I knew him somehow. I don't know how it all happened, but I invited Curtis to come out and do a retreat for our students to just share his vision for this thing he had in his mind called Focus. And I gave, helped organize the retreat. I gave some of the talks. And at the end of the retreat, the students all said, "Oh, this is amazing. We love this idea of Focus. We want to start Focus now." And Curtis said, "Well, I live in Ohio, so I can't really help you, but Professor Sree's here. He'll help you get Focus started." So that's why I got roped in.
Oh, that's funny.
But it was one of the greatest graces in my life. So in those early months, Curtis and I would stay up till like 1 or 2 in the morning on the phone. He's in Ohio, I'm in Kansas. We're writing Bible studies, making it up as we go along. And I would lead that Bible study the next day with a group of students. Then I would meet with some of them one-on-one later in the week to train them so that they could then lead it to their group of students they were leading. So the whole thing was shotgun, and it really transformed the life of Benedictine College, and it's gone on to have an impact all around the world now.
That's so awesome. That's so cool to hear. It's always fun hearing all like the glory stories from what Focus has done. And I can imagine that you guys thought like one day this is going to be on it. Like we're going to have thousands of missionaries. We're going to be in other countries. Like I'm sure that you guys weren't even thinking that far ahead, right? Like were you guys thinking like, I don't know, we'll see where it goes. See what God has the power to do that, but
yes and no. There's two things. First of all, we were very inspired by the mission to evangelize, and the Great Commission that Jesus announces is not go make disciples, when it's convenient and where people will. It's no, to all nations. So there was, I think, in our hearts, there's just a desire to share the gospel everywhere, which includes all humanity. No, did we ever dream Focus would look like it does now? Not exactly how it looks, but in terms of when you say, did we ever envision like that there'd be, tens of thousands of students involved in Focus, 1,000 missionaries. And I would say, well, we didn't have like a big business plan in year 1, 2, and 3, to map it all out. But I will say when I saw at Benedictine College, when I saw in the first year and a half, this college that was known as a big party school, people went there and most of them lost their faith when they would go there. And I saw it be transformed. I saw it like you had all these people coming out of the woodworks from the football team, the rugby team, the drama department, the business department, student government, all sectors of life. They start committing their life to sobriety. I mean, who does that on a college campus? And commit their lives to chastity, and most of all, commit their lives to Jesus Christ, and then want to go and lead others and evangelize others. That is amazing. And so when I witnessed that, where in just a few years, 1 out of 4 students got involved in Bible study, 1 out of 3 students were going to daily mass. It was incredible. I had a sense this is going to spread like wildfire around the world. I kind of like early on, it wasn't like I had a plan or Curtis had like, there was a vision that Curtis had. It's not like we had like a systematic, okay, and this year we're going to go to this school and then we're going to try to get to this diocese.
Yeah.
we had aspirations to reach the whole world, and I
Yeah.
think we had um, big big hopes, but
Hmm.
I think those hopes were grounded in some early experiences of seeing how many people responded so powerfully.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it makes sense too, because it's, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like a business, like it's a numbers game, and it's like you you make those small, like that little way of evangelization. You make those small steps, and I think Saint Philip Neri said, give me 10 detached men and watch us change the world. And yeah, because those 10 can then find 10, and that turns into 100, and that turns into 1,000, turns into 10,000. Actually, can multiply fast. I think a lot of people maybe sometimes get hung up on evangelization, thinking that they need to go out and like try to start converting every single person they know. And it's like, no, just start with that one person, one person you know in your life that needs it. Or even like maybe kind of the topic we'll kind of transition into today is kind of start within your family in the domestic church. And I love that focus is now moving into parishes. I mean, I say now moving; it's been there for a while now. I was actually one of the parish that you guys started with, the Christ the King in Tulsa, and
Oh, you're there. Okay,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
great.
So I'm here with the. I actually have some hellos to pass on from Branson and Emily Schrader and
Oh, okay, that's great.
Ignacio and Elliot Placencia.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we love that. Like we've seen what folks can do on college campuses, and a lot of the time sharing those stories with like I do fundraising for the college church, the parish there, and sharing those stories. Like, man, it's amazing, it's awesome. But I actually do get some people that I was like, man, if I could just go back to college, I'd love to do that, or I'd love to get involved with this. I'd love to commit my life. And it's cool now seeing like the transition, like the translation now having focus in a parish setting and having people like Branson and Emily be able to show like, hey, you can't like you can live this life like this. Like we like let us show you how. Let us walk with you, and it's been beautiful. So when I converted, though, I heard this concept of like the domestic church. You're the domestic priest of your family and stuff, and it was very foreign to me. It was like I said 5 years ago, and so I don't know. Maybe for like some other people that might be like, "What are you talking about? Like, what's the domestic church?" Or maybe Protestant brothers and friends watching the episode today. Could you kind of give us a rundown of kind of what that means, like the domestic church?
Yeah. So basically, it's highlighting how the family and the home is like the first place that
Hmm.
children will encounter God.
Hmm.
It's not through catechism classes and the mass that will happen, God willing,
Hmm.
right? But
Yeah.
it's really in the day to day life of mom and dad and
Hmm.
what culture mom and dad are building in the home. That
Hmm.
children are learning the way of life. They're learning about virtue. They're learning about prayer. They're learning about who God is. This is a lot of pressure on me as a dad, and I fail in so many ways on this front, I know. But, as a dad, I'm an image of who God is in their lives and how they view themselves. So if I'm just lenient and let them do whatever they want, and in
Hmm.
those moments, I'm not, no, God calls us to a higher standard because he made us for
Yeah.
greatness. He made us for love, and he's calling us to that. At the same time, if I'm just rules, and you didn't do this
Yeah.
right, and they feel a
Hmm.
lot of shame, then they're going to feel a lot of shame when they make mistakes and sin in life because we all
Hmm.
do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're not going to know God's loving mercy and that their identity isn't found just simply in, did they get everything right, in
Hmm.
their prayer and in their moral life.
Yeah.
We want to grow in prayer. We need to grow
Yeah.
in virtue in the moral life, of course. But do they know that God loves them as they are?
Yeah.
That they don't have to prove their love to God,
Hmm.
that our cooperation with his grace in our life and living the virtues is a gift to us.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
not like I
Yeah.
gotta show God that I'm worthy of his love. And
Yeah.
if a parent doesn't exhibit that well in the home, they can have all of the great Orthodox doctrine and liturgical year celebrations in the home and all this
Hmm.
great other piety. But if mom and dad don't live a relationship together that's modeled for the children well, and then mom and
Hmm.
dad together and individually relating the children well, that's the primary place the kids are going to learn about God,
Hmm.
for better or for worse.
Yeah.
So we want to have, we're getting ready for Advent
Yeah.
in the Street family here, and we want to be able to have a nice liturgical season and enter into these things. We
Hmm.
try to build in prayer in our daily lives, and we certainly do faith formation well. But the number one thing is the culture of the home,
Yeah.
and that's that we want to build up a domestic church. The church does.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I have a 4 and a 2 year old, so I'm starting to understand that when I fail sometimes and I get mad and I accidentally just let loose and I yell at my daughter and she's only 4 and she did something but she didn't mean to. She's 4. She's either testing boundaries or she did something thinking it was fun or it was good, and then And then I see that fear in her face and stuff. I'm like, man, like I don't want to instill this like lesson on her that, hey, if you mess up in life, like get ready, because I'm going to yell at you. I'm going to get on to you. I want to have that loving, accepting, kind of like that prodigal son type feeling. Like, dude, she's coming back to you. I want her to be able to come to me and say, like, I've messed up, and to embrace her and not like respond with anger. And
Mm.
so, yeah, it's been beautiful to see families that do it well. And I know they weren't never perfect either. But yeah, trying to instill that too, because that's something for me that I've definitely started to see. And then having a son as well is I know that what they say, daughters will grow up to marry the man you are, and then boys will grow up to be the man you are. And it's like, oh, that's kind of scary. I don't know if I want that, but yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
still learning too. I'm 25 years into marriage, and I have a lot to grow in, a lot.
Yeah. So I recently me and my wife came across some like crosses that just there was a season. Jesus said, "Hey, this is the cross we're gonna bear you." I felt like, thankfully, we weren't intentionally thinking this, but I feel like that the domestic church and so much emphasis on it, and living out this, like liturgical life, helps in the long run, because we get these crosses that come, and I feel like if you're kind of not prepared for them, they can really kind of create a little chaos. When the enemy has a little help with that, or it has a little fun with that when you're not prepared, you don't have a prayerful life, you're not communicating well, you're not doing what you should, can kind of cause chaos pretty quick. Is that something that you've experienced before? Do you have any advice for people that kind of experience that? Like they have these crosses come, and they're just like, what is, I can't bear this. Like what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, I mean, we're all going to have the cross in life, but you can't run away from it. It's
Yeah.
just there. I mean, whether you're a Christian or not a Christian, there's suffering in this world because we brought suffering in this world through original sin, and we're all going to have our share in it. As a
Mm-hmm.
Christian, to follow Jesus, the good news is that we can meet Jesus in the midst of our crosses, and we don't have to carry them alone. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the best things. Yeah, you're right. There's some crosses I just can't carry,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't.
Yeah.
And yet, it's Jesus doesn't want me to carry it by myself. He does want
Mm-hmm.
me to carry it, but
Yeah.
he's going to come and help me.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to do my part, so I can't run away from the crosses. I think about something St. Philip Neri once said: "You can never evade the crosses God sends you, because you'll only find a heavier one." That doesn't mean
Yeah.
God's up in heaven throwing crosses down at us. It's not like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because of sin, right, there will be sufferings, and God will
Mm-hmm.
permit it. He will allow us to experience a period of trial and
Mm-hmm.
darkness. Uh, he sorrows, he's sorrowful with us in those moments,
Mm-hmm.
but he can bring good about it. He can
Yeah.
bring good from it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key, is in those moments in life, realize that we're not alone, but secondly, to look for the gem. I always like to say there's like always a gem in every cross, as hard as the cross is.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that God wants to give you, a beautiful present, a beautiful
Mm-hmm.
gift that's going to be helpful for you. And you may not see it in the
Yeah.
midst of it. You may not see it for many years. Maybe I'll never fully understand. But
Yeah.
I know that in every cross, God can use it for good. It can allow me to
Mm-hmm.
experience suffering so that I can grow in compassion on other
Yeah.
people who suffer more. I notice other people suffering more. That's good for my heart to expand
Mm-hmm.
and be empathetic with others more. So maybe that's a
Yeah.
good thing. Or maybe God's allowing me to go through a time of darkness where I don't understand what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
so I can learn to trust in Him and to walk more by faith and
Mm-hmm.
not by sight. Or
Yeah.
maybe God allows me to go through a period where I'm being humbled, or I'm being forgotten, or I'm being marginalized, or rejected, or whatever, in a
Mm-hmm.
friend group, or at my parish, or in a relationship, or with your job, or whatever. And when these
Mm-hmm.
things happen, like to see that, okay, God can use those for certain goods, because maybe as I'm being humbled and I'm not being received the way I would normally like to be received, and
Mm-hmm.
I tend to find my identity and in those things. Like,
Yeah.
it's good for me to be stripped of that, because then I
Yeah.
can learn to rely on Jesus more, find my
Mm-hmm.
identity in Him.
Yeah.
And it's painful, but the great spiritual tradition is that we go through these more intense moments of trial,
Mm-hmm.
because there's only so much I can work on myself.
Yeah.
I can try to get better in this way, and not lose my temper, not be proud, not be selfish, and I
Mm-hmm.
can make some progress.
Yeah.
But our sins are so deep that
Yeah.
God has to, he can use the circumstances of life to bring us to a deeper level of purification, as painful as it might be.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And oh, I had a comment on the coming up, but yeah, I was thinking of that when I converted. That was one of the beautiful things I found about the Catholic Church was that it was just real. Like it was like we recently had this tragic loss. We were 21 weeks pregnant and we had a stillbirth. So we had
Oh, I'm
this
sorry.
terrible, yeah, and it was this terrible like incident, but at the same time, like we pretty quick were like we're okay to grieve and okay to be there, but then at the
Mhm.
same time realized the blessings that had come out of this. Having a successful VBAC, so we can possibly do a home birth next, or we could um, like give us the strength of this baby in heaven now that can look like pray over us, and now we can maybe have the strength to help others that are going through this. And yeah, just looking for that gym, and I love that the Catholic Church had this very much like, yeah, I'm going to meet you like God meets you in the valleys. He meets you down low because he wants to walk with you up. He's not waiting for you at the top and saying like I'll like come on I'll meet you up here. You got to get here though. And I found like something really beautiful about that of that when it is real, there's not this kind of feel good like, hey, God will never give you anything you can't handle. So I'm starting to find that to be not true at all. It's like, no, He will, and He'll give you something that you can't handle alone, but you can do all things through Him, with Him, and yeah, it's been beautiful to see that within the in the family. Yeah, and then when it comes to our kids, I know kind of like we want to instill these lessons on them, and obviously our kids are also going to grow up and have the same faults. They're going to be falling away. They're going to have their own thoughts and own beliefs come, or the enemy's going to start working on them even harder. Is there anything specific you did or do to like prepare like for your kids also entering into this like this kind of society in the world that kind of seems like it's on a trajectory just to get worse? Is there anything specifically you do with your kids?
Oh, I'm still learning.
Hmm.
I thankfully I've launched some kids. Like one fully launched is married,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
and she's faithful and amazing mom, and it's just great. So,
Hmm.
very proud of her, and just yeah, it's a great joy. And then I've got two others in college, and they're just great kids. They've owned their faith. They do work of evangelization. They've been involved in different ministries, and so yeah, really thankful. And
Hmm.
but I still have more kids. I'm still launching, so I pray
Yeah,
that I still have a lot to learn on that front. But maybe let me think of a few things. I would say, on one hand, I think I'm Beth and I have been very mindful of the cultural situation that we're in,
yeah. Hmm.
and not wanting to just let the kids do what every other kid in America does necessarily.
Yeah.
I think about, like, for example, movies and TV and screens, and especially phones and all.
Hmm.
Like I just know how much that can distort someone's view of reality. It sucks them
Yeah.
into their own little cyberspace world.
Hmm.
And then I also just know, just even if you're not, you could be an atheist and just do the science and
Hmm.
know that you
Yeah.
give this device to a young teenager,
Hmm.
that you're ruining their brains.
Yeah.
Actually,
Hmm.
I taught a class this morning all on the brain science of
Hmm.
these devices, especially in those critical years like 12, 13, 14, 15, where your brain is forming.
Hmm.
Like it actually makes you less likely to be a wise, smart person growing up. You
Yeah.
don't read as well, you don't comprehend. You don't have to be a Catholic to understand these things. But I just
Yeah.
give that as an example
Yeah.
of, so our kid, may, we delay giving a smartphone until much later.
Hmm.
They're always the last ones in their friend group and at their school to ever get a phone, and
Yeah.
they just
Yeah.
know that that's just it. But we
Hmm.
wanted to do something to just really protect their minds, protect their souls,
Yes. Yeah.
and we do give it to them, right?
Hmm.
Eventually,
Yeah.
but I don't. But I think it's very important to be intentional, to not just say, okay, my kids are Catholic, send them to youth groups, send them to this good, you
Hmm.
know, youth conference. That no, no, no. You have to look
Hmm.
under the hood and see what's really being taught, what's really happening. Be very intentional in our culture today,
Yeah.
because there's so many forces out there, and many, even at churches, many, it depends on who the youth minister is or who the
Yeah.
teacher is. Like, are they really going to give good substance? Now, that's one side.
Yeah.
But can I say there's another side here? And this one
Yeah. Yeah.
I've grown in over the years of just, because I knew there were the problems, but I see more and more how as important as it is to be mindful on the cultural stuff,
Hmm.
even more important is mom and dad's connection with the kids.
Hmm.
That if all I am is about just a bunch of rules and fear, like
Hmm.
I just teaching at Benedict College, I saw the kids that came out of those really solid Catholic homes.
Hmm.
It didn't go well.
Yeah.
They either were socially awkward or they rebelled against the
Hmm.
faith because there was just this anxiety about the world and everything. And
Yeah.
so my wife, I wish she were here on the show because she would be the first one to just say she loves the teenage years. She just loves
Yeah.
being with them and in their tough decisions and
Hmm.
giving them space to make mistakes and to know that it's okay. We're going to all make mistakes and we love you. And you can
Yeah.
always come to us whenever there's a mistake. We just
Yeah.
had one of our teenagers just come last night to say, hey, I did something I shouldn't have done. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
Not a big deal. They owned it,
Yeah.
but it was really great. They came to me. I didn't have to like go, what's happening?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we want. I think we want the children to have a profound connection with the parents.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not enough to just like, do they do their prayers and do they believe the
Hmm.
right doctrines and do they do the right liturgy and worship and do they
Hmm.
follow all the moral teachings? Like, I don't want my kids just to be obedient. I do
Yeah.
want them to be obedient. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if my kids just do what I want because they're afraid
Hmm.
of me or of God or the church, that's not love.
Yeah.
I want them to have, the reverential fear, which is more, I love God so much, I don't want to do anything to hurt my relationship with him.
Yeah.
That's it. Not, oh, I'm scared what dad's going to think or mom's going to think,
Yeah.
or I'm scared of, is God going to be angry with me? I want them to really know how much they're loved for who they are,
Yeah.
not just what they do. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and there really is that happy medium because you can't like completely shelter them where they then leave for college and they're like, "What do you mean? What is TikTok?" Or like, "What is?" No, I've never heard of this stuff, and then like all of a sudden they're curious. But at the same time, yeah, there is that the the good side, yeah, the good side and the bad side, and I just think of like with our kids right now when like we had our 4 year old ask us the other day like how are babies made, and we're like, "Oh, this we hold on, we're not ready for this." Um, but they do get curious, and it's good to be able to have those answers, and then have that open home to be able to have that. Yeah, like that's beautiful to hear. Like your teenager come and be able to feel comfortable enough to say, "Hey, like I messed up," because then it is like great to have receive him with grace, just like God's going to receive us with grace when we come to the sacrament of confession. But then to be able to assist and that's what I love about being able to walk with Branson, the parish focused missionary at our church. Is he's also a dad. His kids are also about our age, and we share a lot of the same like temptations or the same frustrations and stuff. We're able to walk together and help us become better men so that we can go then be that for our family as well. Because yeah, because there's gonna be stuff I feel like on where you got to shelter them, but we also can't hide them from it. They need to be educated, and then that welcoming home as well. I think Matt Fradd has said they have like a once a month they get around the table and said, "Hey, like this is open. Like there's no judgment, there's no anger, there's no punishment. Like we just want you to be open and like let us know." And I'm like, "That's beautiful. That'd be awesome to instill that as my kids grow older." Because yeah, I want that. I want that. Hope that doesn't go away. And I know I'll fail in different ways. So I know that's gonna be a prayer that'll help with that. So well, awesome. Well, we're coming to the end of our time, and I know everyone would be so interested in Dr. Edward Tree's Saint Draft team. So, you think we'd close with the Saint Draft, or if you had any last closing remarks on the domestic church, I don't know if there's any last little bit of information or
oh,
anything.
yeah, I mean, a few things I would maybe
Yeah.
just add on the domestic church piece. It's funny. I just did another interview. My wife and I have a book called The
Mhm.
Pocket Guide to Prayer, and it's all about
Okay.
like the life of prayer. But we have whole sections on how do you build a culture of prayer in the home
Hmm.
for our kids and,
Yeah.
and family life. And
Mhm.
I know I was talking a lot about the culture out there, and I talk about the relationship, but I don't want to forget the heartbeat
Mhm.
of the domestic church is a life of
Mhm.
prayer.
Yeah.
Our children are going, and first and foremost, our children will learn about prayer by watching mom and dad. Do they pray? And
Hmm.
it's absolutely crucial that mom has time for prayer on her
Yeah.
own
Hmm.
and that dad has time for prayer. I mean, there's all this talk about couples praying together, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
million times more important is, does mom get time to pray and does dad get time for prayer every day? Yes, we pray
Hmm.
together too, but I need to fill up every day in my own interior life. And even if my kids never see that, if I'm committed to daily prayer, then then I'm going to give my kids more than Edward Sri's love, because my love falls short in many ways of my imperfections. They need so much more than that. They need Jesus shining through me. But that
Mm-hmm.
can only happen if I have a committed daily time for quiet time in prayer, not
Mm-hmm.
saying prayer simply, not just praying the rosary and
Mm-hmm.
liturgy of the hours, which are beautiful. I do those too, but do I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
that quiet time for the relationship with God? That's probably one of the biggest things my wife and I always emphasize. And I
Mm-hmm.
think in our 25 years of marriage, that's what's blessed our marriage the most and
Mm-hmm.
helped us to be filled up with God so I can give the best of myself. Because the best of myself is not me, it's
Mm-hmm.
Christ radiating through me. But that can only
Yeah.
happen if I have a daily prayer life. So that's the piece I would highlight on
Mm-hmm.
the domestic church
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
That's great. Yeah, and I feel that too sometimes when it's like when your prayer life's good and you just like feels like everything's just sinking well and you're feeling great. The second it starts slacking, you're like, man, why I'm struggling. Like I'm just like I am
Yeah.
struggling right now. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us with that, the topic and everything. I knew that'd be great. When I typically have a guest on, I'm like, let's like I want to see some of the videos and some of the books I've written and stuff like that to see what would be great. There were so many different topics that kind of fell under that umbrella term. We could honestly, if we had time, we could probably do a 3 hour episode on all of them. But I was like, let's just get in as much as we can. And then I had a bunch of people that are like, "Are you going to do the Saint draft with them?" I was like, well, "We don't have time for the whole Saint draft, but maybe we can get like your team." And so for anyone that's watching that doesn't know what we're talking about, so I typically have the signature Saint draft we do at the end of each episode, where we go back and forth and we draft like just like an NBA draft, and we're doing our starting five. If these Saints were alive today, they could save the world. And there's no wrong answers typically. Like we just give people comment which one they think's best. But this today, for time's sake, maybe we'll just go through. If you were to build a starting five Saints, you could bring them back and they were alive today. Who would be your starting, or who would be your starting five Saints? And typically we have them just pick. I'd pick this Saint because this, just a short little.
Great. And I'll tell you,
Yeah,
like, these are like the saints probably, most important for me
yeah,
personally.
yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think they would be really darn good for the world and all. So I'm going
Yeah.
to start with Saint Therese. She's my number
Oh
one.
yeah, yeah.
Heart of my, and it's all because of her real little way in her spiritual
Mm-hmm.
life of encountering God in our weakness and our poverty.
Mm-hmm.
That it's actually when we dare to go lower with God and admit this is where I really am and how much I really am broken, how much I really need you. Like
Mm-hmm.
when we like really come to terms with that, not just say, "Oh, I need God and I'm a sinner." No, no, but I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
feel it acutely. I hurt people. I
Yeah.
am selfish. I am proud. I'm too attached. Like when I feel that, I just can't change.
Mm-hmm.
To meet God there transforms us the most. We need to go
Yeah.
back into that little way over and over and over again, all the way through this life and probably into purgatory. So Saint
Yeah.
Therese, number one.
Okay. Number
I'm
one.
going to go JP2. I mean, these are recent
Okay.
saints, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
JP2, his spiritual vision as a spiritual father, leading the church, inspiring us.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of just like you just have a figure you just want to rally around, and what he's
Mm-hmm.
calling us to in terms of holiness, calling us to an evangelization.
Mm-hmm.
I think I love him as a theologian. He shaped my mind in
Yeah.
so many ways. But I'm going to Pope John Paul II as the
Yeah.
spiritual leader,
Yeah.
the spiritual father that our world needs.
We have this
Um,
awesome photo of we had a retired bishop that just passed away like a month ago or so. And when he was ordained like the bishop of the Diocese of Tulsa, there's a picture of John Paul II with his hands on his head reading out of the book. And I'm like, that's the coolest picture I've ever seen. It's so cool.
oh yeah,
But yeah. All right. Number
there we
three.
go. Okay, number three, I'm going to go Mother Teresa. It's
Oh,
another
yeah.
modern saint. I've
Yeah.
done a lot of work with the Missionaries of Charity,
Mm-hmm.
teaching and doing retreats for them, and so
Yeah.
they've become very dear to me. And I
Mm-hmm.
love praying with them.
Yeah.
They don't pay me to do anything, but they pray for me, and that's more valuable than any
Way
stipend I
more
could ever
valuable.
get.
Yeah.
And I just love praying with them. But Mother Teresa's spirituality of
Mm-hmm.
thirst, that Jesus
Yeah.
is thirsting for our souls.
Yeah.
He's thirsting for our time, our attention, our total surrender. He's thirsting for our love, not just in the tabernacle, but in the poor, in our children,
Yeah.
in our marriages. Like these are the places God is coming to meet us. He's thirsting for us.
Yeah.
So I think of Mother Teresa. Fourth one, I'm going to throw out John of the Cross.
Okay.
I just
Another
got
good
back
one.
from leading a pilgrimage through Lourdes, Spain, and Fatima.
Oh,
And I got to
nice.
walk in the footsteps of Teresa of Avila and John of the Cross in Spain while I was there. I got to pray at his tomb. I've taught John of the Cross for many, many years. And
Mm-hmm.
his spirituality about like souls that really want to go deeper with the Lord, not just be a good Orthodox Catholic, which is
Yeah.
noble,
Yeah.
but to really allow your whole life to be transformed by the
Mm-hmm.
gospel
Yeah. Yeah.
at a deep level. John of the Cross, meets us in our darkness.
Hmm.
God is coming in a profound way to draw us closer to Him. In those crosses, kind of like what you were talking about earlier, Josh,
Hmm.
the crosses and the sufferings in life, that
Yeah.
God uses that to draw us closer to Him. Like that, His spirituality is amazing, and His
Yeah.
poetry especially.
Oh yeah.
Last one, Catherine of Siena, another one of my
Oh
favorite
yeah.
saints. Catherine is a great doctor of the church. I love her writings. They're very human,
Yeah.
about really how do we learn to love God through loving our neighbor. I think that's one of the biggest things I take away from her is that she says we have to walk with, well, God told her you need to walk with 2 feet and not just one,
Hmm.
love of God and love of neighbor. So we
Yeah.
can think of, oh, well, honey, I just need to go pray right now. No, no, no. My prayer is I need to serve you right now. Or
Hmm.
my kids are interrupting like the spiritual thing I want to do. No, they're not interrupting. That's
Hmm.
actually the place God wants me to. That's my vocation. I am
Yeah.
called to love others and love Jesus in the people, not just in the tabernacle.
Hmm.
All right, there we go.
Oh,
Hope that's
yeah.
helpful.
There's your five. Yeah, you guys comment below what you think of the starting five. I'm sure you guys love it because they're a team of saints. But awesome. Well, Dr. Street, thanks for being on. We look forward. Maybe we will have maybe you and your wife back sometimes. Maybe like around like Valentine's Day, we do some couple episode or something. But yeah, thanks for being with us. And you guys, again, don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll reach out, make sure we get any links and stuff you're working on now. Make sure it's included in the description below. And other than that, you guys have a blessed week. And we'll see you guys next week with Michael Gormley. The local Tulsa guy. And we're going to be talking about the Advent season as well. So God bless, and you guys have a great week.